Welcome back. Today we're talking about the importance of transferring or transcribing our recipes from cups and tablespoons to weighted measures. And there are a number of reasons for doing this. Primarily, it's because I want you to be able to scale your recipes up and down, no matter how many orders or how few orders you have to bake in a specific recipe. And by taking a moment and putting that into weighted measures, we can scale that recipe up and down to the nearest ounce. So we can get down to the last cupcake, the last French macaron, whatever you're making, we can scale it down or scale it up to match exactly what we're baking or mixing or making. Another reason that I love weighted measures is because I can do all of my mixing in one bowl. I can put my mixer bowl on top of my scale and put in weighted measures from all of my different ingredients without having to cup, measure, and count as I scale my recipes up, which was a big deal in the early stages of our bakery. It was real easy for the phone to ring and I'm like, wait, is that 12 cups? Or am I on 14? So you see what I mean? It's so easy to weigh out your measurement versus counting cups or tablespoons as you scale up. Now, another reason that I love weighted measurements and being able to scale is because I don't have to wash the extra dishes. So that means I don't have to wash cups and tablespoons and all of the extras. I'm doing it all in one mixer bowl. And another reason that I suggest that you switch to weighted measures is because even dry ingredients weigh differently, cup by measured cup. We learned fairly early as we had new employees come in that sometimes our cakes would be a little bit drier and sometimes a little less dry. Same thing with our cookie dough. Sometimes it would be a little dry. We wouldn't really understand why. And it had to do with how we were measuring our dry goods. Because you see, if you are measuring from sifted flour to packed flour, they have different weighted measurements. Let me give you a real visual here. So I've taken time to measure out 1 cup of flour, just all-purpose flour. 1 came from a sifted bowl of flour. The other one came straight from the bag. So I created a lofty cup and then used my little scraper, scrape the top so it's nice and even with the top of the measuring cup. It's the same measuring cup. All 3 are exactly the same. They have the same weight. Let's see what they look like on the scale, just so you can compare the difference. I've got my scale out and I'm turning it on. And I'm going to put my first measuring cup on, and this measuring cup weighs 3.1 ounces. If I hit the tare button, it zeroes out my scale. That's great. If I move that off to the side, you can see the negative 3.1 for the measuring cup. Now let me take my sifted flour and measure it out. 1 cup of sifted flour is 4.5 ounces. Let's see what happens when I put my straight from the bag flour onto the scale. 6.1 ounces. That's 1.5 ounce difference. And that probably doesn't sound like a big deal initially until you start realizing you're scaling your recipes up. And where a recipe normally might call for 2 or 3 cups, you're now up to 16 cups to fit into a big mixer because you've grown in business and scale and size. And those 1.5 ounces will add up as you increase your batter batch. Same thing when you scale down. Like if you do a little micro recipe, because you only need to do a few little somethings, the difference in that 1.5 ounces will show up in your texture and consistency. Let's talk about how easy it is to actually change our recipes to reflect ounces. I have a few random ingredients here. And the first one I'm looking at is coconut milk. I use that in my ganache. And this one's easy. It's a can of coconut. My recipe called for a can of coconut cream. And I can see that it's 13.5 fluid ounces in this can. Now I am going to have to translate this to a weighted measurement for my pantry because chef equation doesn't use fluid ounces, it uses weighted measurements. Fluid ounces are a volume measure, kind of like a cup. So before putting this in the pantry, we're gonna weigh that out versus keeping the fluid ounces. Let's talk about something else. How about a 2-pound bag of powdered, not powdered, brown sugar? I'm gonna say powdered like 14 times today. I can see on the bag, it's 2 pounds, sure, but it's also 32 ounces. So that makes it easy for me to put it in chef equation, and it makes it easy for me to understand when I convert my recipes, how many bags it's going to take me to buy when I do my planners. So almost everything we buy is going to have a weighted measure on it. Even corn syrup, which is semi-liquid, comes in a 1-gallon jug. And if you have picked up a gallon jug of corn syrup, you know it is heavy. This 1-gallon jug has 3.78 liters by liquid. This is where things get a little bit challenging. So when we're converting liquid measurements, because they don't come by weighted measurements, they come by volume measurements. What's volume? That's gallon, that's a pint. Those are liters, milliliters. So we need to convert those to weighted measures. There are a couple of different ways to do that. I'm going to go over that in the next video.